Topic webinar. Today we'd like to share with you the new features of 21.3, the latest version of ARCHIBUS. If you liked ARCHIBUS 21.2, you're going to love 21.3. The new features include advancements of mobile, metrics, page navigation, new georeferencing, and enterprise integration, which is included, and much more. These new features operate in the same user interface, framework, and platforms, making the jump to 21.3 relatively easy. So a few reminders before we get started. Upcoming webinar links are always posted on our website, so check them regularly. Hot topic webcasts like ARCHIBUS Esri next week, it's a deeper dive into it, will be on November the 5th. So be sure to sign up for topics of interest and check back to see when new topics are announced. And also, as always, feel free to share the list with colleagues. Horizon continues to educate with training sessions offering in-class or custom-tailored online or on-site, and including things like ARCHIBUS Fundamentals, Systems Admin, and an advanced programming course. The next scheduled course is Systems Admin on November 11th and 12th. So for full agendas, dates, and costs, you can check out our website. We are close to rolling out a new on-demand online training library as well, and these are downloadable training sessions for purchase or by subscription. So stay tuned for these great sessions. Oops. ARCHIBUS is called to present at the upcoming Nexus International Users Conference in Chicago next spring. That's April. The deadline was last Friday. A few of our clients have filled out the application form, but if you're interested, let us know and we'll get the information over to you right away. It's a great way to share with peers, tell your story, and be active in the community. Also, Ottawa will play host to the next users meeting sometime after Christmas, and you'll receive an invite and more details on that soon. But back to today's event. We'll save the questions till the end and keep folks muted, so but feel free to type your questions into the dialog box on the lower right of your GoToMeeting console. We'll do our best to get to them at the end, and if not, we'll follow up certainly after the webinar. So make sure that if any questions come up, let us know. The session is being recorded like all previous Hot Topic webinars and will be available on our website at horizon.ca. Should you want to review it again or share it with colleagues. Now today we have with us Wayne Lico, whom you all know, VP of Marketing and Sales here at Horizon, as well as our guest presenter, Mr. Greg Alvarez, an ARCHIBUS subject matter expert from ARCHIBUS and a longtime friend of Horizon. Greg brings a great many years of industry experience, unrivaled, and a depth of ARCHIBUS knowledge. He's also an all-around great guy, a terrific presenter, and I think he has a slight cough today, so bear with us. First, Wayne, thanks so much for your time and welcome.
Thanks, Diana. I'm glad everybody's able to join us here today. As you can see, we're committed to sharing as much knowledge and experience on software services and support topics as we can. So through these ongoing webinars and hot topic sessions, we hope you get a transfer of knowledge, whether it be on something new, how to approach an existing process differently, or just simply how to integrate some of the tools that you have internally. So more and more we find that we're helping clients develop their strategic technology roadmaps to help navigate the inevitable change either organizationally or functionally that occurs. So we encourage you to continue reaching out to us and provide feedback. Diane has been doing a fantastic job organizing these sessions and hopefully keeping you guys informed. So we do thank you for providing the feedback and all, of course, all the suggestions on topics. Please keep these communication lines open. We love to hear back on anything that you may want to see, anything that you care about, and of course, most importantly, how we might be able to assist you. So thanks again for joining us, and thanks to Greg for helping us get this going here today. So Greg, over to you to run through the presentation.
Well, thank you, Wayne and Diana. Pleasure to be here with everybody. And my apologies in advance. If I break out into a cough, I'll try to mute, but we'll see how it goes. It's been a rough couple of weeks, especially when I try to talk. So this should be fun and interesting. I wanted to thank everybody for being a member of the ARCHIBUS community. And as we continuously develop and evolve the software, I get more and more excited every time I see a new release of the software, and this one's no different, basically. So essentially, I'm going to start just with a quick recap of 21.2, some of the key things that drove that, and really get into some of the ways 21.3 takes advantage of the technologies that we put into place, and then we'll wrap up with questions. In order to do this presentation today, I will be using pre-recorded videos. It'll just make life a little bit easier, as Wayne could attest. Every now and then the software demonstrations online could be fun. So just to kind of recap version 21.2, we really put a lot of effort into the user experience and how they work through the software. And one of the key things that I really enjoy is the home pages and page navigation, which allows us to truly organize how information is presented by grouping our favorite menu picks, number one, by incorporating performance metrics, framework and alerts, as well as, enabling quick start functionality so that you can actually learn some of the key functionalities of the software. We also, took a lot of, feedback over time on how to best interact with the floor plans and to minimize the number of changes and views, and we've constructed the space console that really helps determine, all the different things that you want to manage: space, occupancy, allocation, of information, looking at any buildings and floors. And the nice thing is that there's a certain level of configuration that you can do in determining what information you see, and also, generating some key, reports, especially some of the highlight reports. We did the same thing for the building ops console. We helped integrate the process for craftspeople and supervisors to manage all of their work in one screen and push it through the various processes from the moment a request is generated all the way through approving, issuing, and scheduling that work going forward. So that, again, with single screen function, allows people to do their own settings, choose some of their own fields that they want to display. Also, we did quite a bit of work on mobile. So, back in 21.1, we introduced the mobile framework. We had the maintenance app, the Facebook, and the asset survey. And since that time in 21.2, we added 4 additional applications. Those include the incidents report to complement the environmental health and safety app, space and occupancy to encompass tracking space and people over time, so integrating with the workplace transactions. The workplace portal, enabling many of your users to interact with their mobile devices and request basic services for conference room scheduling or maintenance requests or move requests or other activities. And also for your maintenance staff, the assessment apps to help conduct condition assessments, environmental assessments, or commissioning level assessment activities. So that's kind of where we came from in 21.2, and now with 21.3, we've even gone further, adding new enhancements and improvements, and further integrating the mobile and Web Central, applications. And I'm going to actually showcase some of these features through some demonstrations that we have. So first thing I wanted to do is kind of set the stage and reconnect everybody with the notion that ARCHIBUS works well with Revit. Unfortunately, we're not all in the same room. I'd love to always see a show of hands of how many people are working with Revit. But I would liken it to the fact that as you develop Revit models and you're trying to figure out what to do, go back to the basics of what you do with ARCHIBUS, and it's the same principles. You're going to catalog rooms, you're going to catalog assets, and as I'm sure you're doing now in your Web Central, you're publishing your floor plans, so that's important. But it also gives you the ability to manage the updates of space and employee locations by working in conjunction with a Web Central activity. So we'll kind of go through now a little presentation here. And what we see before us is, many of you will either doing some major renovations or the installation of new buildings, and you want to connect them to Revit and then connect them into, ARCHIBUS. And so, much as we look at Revit, it represents floors in a slightly different way. It's all in one big file, and the floors are just one aspect of those. We're, able to use the same principles that we used before in terms of connecting the buildings and creating that background data, which is very important to us, so that we have that full data integrity and validation that is important for using ARCHIBUS. So here we are creating on the fly the important information for building and floor, and making that connection. And these Revit models contain a lot of useful information that we want to work in ARCHIBUS. And of course, we've created a ribbon in the Revit capabilities that leverage and drive the ARCHIBUS commands working in conjunction with the Revit model. Excuse me one second. So here we are, starting right away with connecting room information. And Revit's different in the sense that we don't have to draw the polylines. It recognizes the room area and actually allows us to connect directly to it. And we're also talking directly to those Revit parameters. But for ARCHIBUS, of course, we want to add those key information about allocation standards and classification of space. But all the other details of area and perimeter, can be saved. And so we can connect that information in the model, but we can see that it's also connected in the Revit parameters. So as we're saving it in the model, it saves it to ARCHIBUS, and it saves those parameters very easily. So as we move forward here, the other things that we can connect include information like assets. And so now that, excuse me, much like we have the room information, what we want to do is install, some equipment. And so we can grab from a library of assets an internal air handling unit for this particular room in question. And the thing we want to do is also connect it to ARCHIBUS. First thing we want to do is, of course, assign its asset tag. And we also want to link it to the standards table that we've developed. And so we see that we have things like air handler indoor. And so we're going to populate that standard and connect through the ARCHIBUS, and also make sure that it's allocated to the right organization as far as asset inventory goes. And just like we did before with the room, we've now connected the object, which is an asset, and we've identified the ARCHIBUS parameters, which are now in the tables for Revit, but also linking the ARCHIBUS information. Once we've done these things, the next step that we want to do, of course, is make a full-on connection to the model, and that means we use the typical plans like we do in AutoCAD, which is to basically catalog the data. So the first step we're going to do is just catalog, and we tell it what objects we want to catalog. So we want to catalog rooms, similar like you would layers in an AutoCAD drawing. And it very quickly completes that process and makes the connection to the database. And we can perform the command for the same thing that is all the equipment. And again, we catalog that very quickly, and that process is done in a matter of seconds. So now we have a fully connected model. Well, not everybody is going to be sitting in front of a model and using it. And there's many ways that you can use this information. So we certainly want to make it accessible to the rest through the Web Central and through the mobile devices. So we do publish the enterprise graphics that are now usable for us to work with for all the different users, whether they be space planners, whether they be asset managers, whether they be maintenance crew within the system. So we've now made this model viewable by everybody. And as we switch over into Web Central, one of the things we'll do is drop into the Space Console. And the model that we are using was called the Research Building. So we're going to go in and find all of the floor plans. In this case, we started with the first floor. As you can see, we have a fully cataloged floor plan that shows the allocation of space to the different divisions. And what we're going to do now is drill into a specific room. And the process that we want to do is looking at employees, we want to see what the capacity of that room is. And we're going to do a little bit of work on the floor plan to make sure that we allocate space. So right now we have an occupant of 1, but a capacity of 2 people. So the thing that we want to do is we're going to actually do a little rearranging. In this case, we can actually drag and drop a name from a different room. And what we're going to do is make that change permanent. So we can update the floor plan and therefore the Revit model directly back inside the database. And we now have 2 employees assigned to that room location. And so this just gives you a quick glimpse of how ARCHIBUS can be used in conjunction with Revit and make it very easy for you to take advantage of the models that you're creating in your system. Let's take a closer look now and start driving into some of the kinds of work that we can do and leveraging both the Web Central and the mobile technology. One of the things that we want to do, of course, is go out and collect information and survey details. Before, we'd have to bring a clipboard with us and go out and write down information and then transcribe it into our databases or spreadsheets. Well, with ARCHIBUS's mobile framework, we can make those changes in the mobile framework and update ARCHIBUS automatically. So let's take a look at that. The idea here is to go out and walk the floor. And what we're going to do now is take a look at any of the given rooms. And what we find in our survey is that we've discovered a person in one of the rooms that was previously vacant. So we can actually connect to that, assign the primary location for that people. As you know, in ARCHIBUS has the ability to assign primary and secondary locations. And what we're going to do is assign Jenny Lamb to that location that we found. Once the survey is closed, this automatically updates ARCHIBUS. And so when we go back into Web Central, we are looking at a room and we discover that the room we moved Jenny into has been actually occupied by somebody else. And one of the ways that we can check that is to see what pending requests for space we had. And we see Ginger Aber has been assigned to the same room in the near future that Jenny just took over. And so we need to make some adjustments in our plan. And as we look through time, we can see that we're over allocated in our plan in room 264. So therefore, we need to make an appropriate adjustment and relocate Jenny to this new room and make the necessary adjustments for the future so that at the end of the day, all of our room and capacity is at 100% for the floors. And so all of this can be done in conjunction with the mobile framework as we look at information. So we'll go ahead and move on here. Now, there's a lot of things you can do with managing space information. One of the ideas that we believe is very useful is, especially as you go into moving to new locations, is gathering all the data for new floor plans to make sure everything checks out the way you do. So what we're going to start with here is looking at populating a new floor. Let's say we just did a major renovation or we just leased some new area in our floor plan, and what we want to do is complete that connection process. And we're kind of doing this in an expedited mode. And the notion here is that as we look at the floor, we know what some of the allocation information is, but what we did to help expedite this is we allowed the people to move in working in coordination with the department managers. So what we're going to start with, of course, is making sure that we connect our floor plan to the database, and we'll basically assign some space. And the great thing about the Web Central Space Console is the multi-select function. We're going to assign multiple rooms to the same organization. So we just grab and select these rooms, whether we do them in groups or one by one. And we essentially pick another organization, select another set of rooms to make that assignment. So here we're picking off human resources before we were doing the executive division. And then finally, we're going to scroll down a little bit and pick one more organization to make the appropriate allocation. So software solutions, we're just going to grab that whole kind of interior section and assign multiple rooms. So very quickly, very easily, I'm able to make global assignments of space, both in the middle and on the window walls there. And what I can do is view all the assignments I made to make sure that they're what I expect, make any adjustments necessary. Or I can take all of those and immediately populate those in the database. And so as space planners, you'll be able to quickly update and modify information. And as you can see, once we go into that specific floor plan and look, we can see how many spaces we have, what's the total area, and how much space is allocated, and the room count for each of the rooms. As we move over to the mobile app, we now need to do the next part. We allow the department to basically populate people, so we now got to go capture that information, which is very easy. So we use the Space and Occupancy app to capture and collect this information. So what we're going to do is just go in and select a specific room. Very easy to do in this case. First thing we'll do is kind of zoom in on the floor plan. And then we'll just, select one of the rooms. Very easy to do. So we do that on the mobile device. And the first step we want to do is we discover the name of the employee. It's part of the executive management group. And so we go in and search for that person. And it's Megan DeSavy. And we make her the primary location, and we go ahead and save that detail. And we can do this on a room-by-room basis. So not only you're just writing this down in the clipboard, but you're actually directly inputting this information into the database. And so when you complete and close out the survey, all of ARCHIBUS is clearly updated. If we return back to the Web Central after we've completed the survey, we can do a quick study and view of the floor plan. And so here we see, as we look at the highlight plan, we're going to show occupancy. Now we can see all of the rooms that have been assigned to employees and those rooms that are still vacant in our list, and we can drill down into any one of those rooms and see the current seating arrangement for all of those employees. And this was all gathered using the Space and Occupancy app of ARCHIBUS. And the way that app works, you can directly make those updates and save them to ARCHIBUS without having to review them beforehand, if you have the authority to do so. And then we can see the impact on the data in terms of what the current allocation plans are by stack plan, or even seeing how we perform with some of the benchmarks in terms of what's the occupancy rate of the floor, how efficient are we against the targets that we've set, and effectively we can see what the average area per employee on those different spaces. So let's go ahead and continue through our presentation here. The next step we want to talk about is maintenance, and there's some great things that we've done here to help facilitate the way people can work within the app and execute work. So the first thing we do is, for that many of you who have been working with the building operations consoles and the service level agreements, we have been using quite heavily the notion of work teams. And now what we have is work is assigned to any of the team members. We can actually self-assign that work from the mobile device while out in the field. So let's say we're a craftsperson. We'll go ahead and see that a new work request has been initiated in the system. And when we're in our mobile device, we constantly sync up with what's out there, and we can see there's a list of work. We can see this new work that was just recently created. And while I'm at it, I can see some other work that I want to do. And using the self-assign feature, I now make it my responsibility as the craftsperson to do that. And by syncing it with the database, it is very easy for me to let my other compatriots and my team know that this work now belongs to me, and they no longer have to worry about it. I then transition to looking at the work that I'm responsible for so that I can go through and actually process it. So here what I'm going to do is be responsible for making all the necessary updates. I want to fill in the time to do work, and we've actually added, as part of the mobile framework, the ability to hit a start and stop feature within the software. And so not only are you able to put in time just by placing the values, you can actually use a start and stop timer to count the actual time spent within a job. And so as you can see here, we spent 15 minutes, and that 15 minutes now is recorded as part of the work order, and then I complete the work. When I synchronize back with Web Central, I can see those details have been updated automatically. And as you can see down here, that quarter of hour I spent doing the work for Valerie is now part of the maintenance and operation activity. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and move on to the next stage of activity here. The other thing that we've found is that, a lot of the supervisors we work with are mobile, and the maintenance apps needed that ability to give the supervisor the power to manage work while they were out in the field. And so we're going to showcase that here a little bit right now. First thing we'll do is kind of get started. One of the things that with the Workplace Services Portal, any employee can come in and create a service request. And once they create that service request, they input the details. Here we have a little bit of a plumbing problem. And so we're inputting that data. And for those of you who have iPhones or speakers on your Droid phones, you can actually talk that description in by just pressing the speaker button. But for demonstration purposes, we showed it this way. This then becomes a work ticket that gets synced up with the server, and it now becomes the responsibility of the supervisor to take care of. And so what we're going to do is move over into Web Central, and immediately what we can see is we just created a work request number 632. And one of the things that it's telling us is that it requires an estimate. Now, this is something that the supervisor can do from their desk, but they're not really sure what they're, hold on. I'm back. What they need to estimate. So the beauty of this is the supervisor can take their tablet with them and go out in the field and actually look at the work and determine what's needed before they make the final assignments, or they could even assign it. So let's continue through the process here, and the supervisor will grab their tablet and head out into the field. We're waiting for, yeah. So here we are now. The supervisor's out in the field, and the work is there. It's number 632. We saw it in the Building Ops console. If we're not quite sure where to go, we can use the location feature, highlight on the floor plan, and observe what's happening. And the next thing we want to do is use some of the same actions as a supervisor would have. So we want to be able to estimate and assign that work to a craftsperson. First thing we want to do is identify, generally speaking, the trade that will be needed. We're assigning a plumber to this activity, and we're putting a rough order estimate of 2.5 hours to complete the work, and we complete the estimation, which now allows us to schedule the work. While the supervisor is out in the field, one of the things they can do is determine if they want to go ahead and schedule it. So they're going to make that choice right now. In order to do this, we now take the next step, which is to actually pick the craftsperson, and it's been determined Valerie is the appropriate person to do this work. We believe she'll need 2.5 hours of time to do, and we go ahead and attach a picture that we take with the mobile device so that they can see what the problem is. And we go on to the next step, we're issuing. So we're still out in the field. We're able to process the work, and now later on when we come back to see what's going on here, we can see that the status is updated here. It's gone from assigned to work order to issued, and we did that all out in the field. And furthermore, if we look at what's happened, we can see that that craftsperson has been assigned, that there is a picture attached of the work that needs to be completed. So now the supervisor can be more agile, more ready to interact with all of the different kinds of activities without having to go out and collect information, bring it back, and update the system. Using the mobile framework supervisor feature on the maintenance app will make that happen very quickly. So we'll go ahead and move on. And let's finally talk about preventive maintenance. And here we'll even talk a little bit about leveraging some of that information you might get out of a BIM model. So the first thing we want to do is jump in here, launch in. We're a craftsperson responsible for preventive maintenance. And when we look at the work that's being performed, we can recognize that we're in that building that we cataloged in the beginning of this session. We can even see the air handling unit that we added to inventory. And the nice thing is we can leverage some of the information that we have about that asset out of the Revit model and bring it into the system. So we know some of the details of where it's located, what the equipment standard is. We can attach the PM procedure that might have come out of the model and put that into the document section. And of course, we've assigned the people and parts that would be necessary to do the work. So again, we have very easily recognized from our previous time where that asset is located, just like we saw in the model, but now it's available in this, mobile maintenance app right at our fingertips. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. Let's continue on to see some other activities. For those that are responsible for managing leases, there's a lot of details that you want to do, and one of the things that we've done is created a new lease console to make it easy for you to interact with the lease, and we give you a couple different options here. Before we get started, we just wanted to show you, some of the key information that you see. So if, for instance, I'm looking for a lease, because I can geocode those leases, I can pinpoint its location on the map, and by selecting that object, I can pick up further details, and as a matter of fact, zoom to that location and get a closer view on the map where that particular facility is situated. We also have access to all the appropriate lease expirations and option expirations for our leases, as well as some of the basic lease details. But to take a closer look in the presentation, let's go back into the home page here, and what we're going to do is take a look at the lease portfolio console. And this is the most recent addition to the ARCHIBUS software platform. It provides a comprehensive way of looking at all the leases that you're responsible for. We've added some new filters, so if you need to find the 10 newest leases, for instance, in the portfolio, it's very easy to do. If you want to look at active alerts, options expiring, leases overdue, all of that is quick and easy to find and discover. And here, for instance, we find 3 leases that are not there. We also have additional filters in terms of landlord, tenant, date ranges, etc. For now, what I want to do is search specifically on Philadelphia, and what I'll do is, apply the appropriate filter here and look for all leases assigned to Philadelphia. And as you can see, I have quite a few. Let's take a look at the head lease here. Here we're using the ARCHIBUS complete form to evaluate and see the information. So all of our recurring costs, clauses, options, amendments, communication logs, suite details, documents, etc., are all available in one single view for us to review this information. What we've done here is given you the flexibility to change the way you see things. So we've also added the Edit Lease wizard so that you can break things down into different tabs and focus more closely on some of that information. So if I want to address any of the recurring cost patterns, or if I want to evaluate any of the clauses, and for those of us who are up in the Northeast, I heard snow in the forecast. I know it's not going to be a lot, but that word always makes us wonder about what our snow removal clauses are. We want to make sure we're properly ready for that coming up for the different properties we have. We can certainly identify when any options to renew are, and we've actually executed it for this lease as it now expires in 2021. We generated the appropriate amendment for that lease renewal. We keep track of any communication logs around that, and we've consolidated the way we present all the different documents. So of course we can store the lease agreement and contracts and letters of communication. All can be incorporated into a single view as far as the document records that are associated with a lease agreement. And so, so now that we've taken a look, let's go back in and remember, many lease managers, one of the things they want to do is locate a specific lease. We simply type in the lease number, and it immediately drills to the lease in question. And so it's very easy to manipulate the data and find the leases that you're responsible for as a lease manager, lease administrator for a given region of your organization. All right, let's move on to the next thing we've done. We've also created a new project management console for the project managers and directors and supervisors of projects. This allows us to focus our activities on managing each of the projects we're responsible for. As that also includes the work packages, the associated actions, invoices, and of course the schedule Gantt chart that goes along with it. So let's take a look at the lease console. and is part of, on this home page, it's called the Project Management Console, excuse me. And as we load it up, just like before, it gave us the opportunity to view all of the projects that a person would be responsible for. The form has made it easy for us to understand what some of the key alerts are. As you can see, the red stars next to any of the projects. We simply open that filter up, and we can quickly identify what are some key things that we should be out for. In this case, we have 4 bid packages currently out. We can look at the individual, excuse me. We look at the individual projects and look at all of the alerts. We can review the key milestones that are associated with the project, make sure that they've been completed, look at who the different team members are for that project, keep track of the communication logs, as well as any of the associated documents for the project. As project managers, you're definitely responsible for making sure all invoices are paid for the different work packages that are out there, and the process is in place to not only review those invoices, but get them approved and then integrate them with accounting and finance. Next step we want to do, of course, is review any of the actions that we have and quickly identify which of the actions are currently in progress. So by quickly filtering the status column, we can see all of the current actions that are actively in progress, as well as for the whole project, look at the Gantt chart and look at the overall timeline to complete the project. So here we also have a series of reports that are easily accessible at the dashboard level. Pick up and review work packages, and the goal is to compare any estimates against actuals and make sure that we're not in any situations of variance that might cause us trouble on any given project. So this just gives you a good sense of how a project manager can take care of all the activities that they're responsible for. All right, let's go ahead and return to our presentation. Next step we want to focus on is energy management. This is a growing concern for many of the organizations we are with these days, as they are trying to monitor all of the different energy, whether it's the electricity, oil, gas. They want to be able to track that and make sure that they're doing everything they can to conserve energy, thereby reducing costs in the organization. So there are different ways to capture that information. One would be to work with your local utilities and actually get an electronic file from them and be able to load that bill data into the system, or maybe populate a spreadsheet and then import it into ARCHIBUS. So that's clearly one way that we can capture that energy data. Another is to integrate with your energy control system. And what this does is actually focus on any of the sub-meters that you have where you're capturing data and start looking at capturing data by the hour, by quarter hour, whatever the increment that you're looking for. Gives you a greater deal of understanding of what your impact is, and you're able to take that feed from your meter and put it right into ARCHIBUS. The end result, of course, is once you've captured that data and imported it, what you can start analyzing is what's been the impact on your energy conservation programs and what things should you be planning to do going into the future. So here we have a review of some of the energy consumption. And what's great, as we look at some of the different buildings we can see over time that there's been a general downward trend, even with the seasonal changes and spikes that occur. There's a general decrease in energy consumption, and what's nice is we can then use this as supporting documentation to further drive new energy conservation programs by attaching these details to our justification programs. We can also start looking at a facility by facility level, and what's great, so as we identify those buildings that might be consuming more energy, we can be taking a closer look to monitor, for instance, when do you start up a building for occupancy. So let's say I'm starting at 4 or 5 in the morning and the building is occupied at 7, and I can see that there's a peak load that occurs on the Albany building. Maybe you can adjust that start time by half an hour or an hour and still achieve a good working environment by the time employees show up. So it gives you a chance to truly understand how your energy is being consumed and what things you can do to have an impact and make adjustments to reduce the overall consumption and therefore increase dollars. And just like before, we can import and export that information for further analysis and recommendations on programs for reducing energy consumption within our organization. So I think that takes care of energy here. And again, you can see there's a lot of things that we did with the software by including some new features. Next one I want to talk about is the reservations application and some of the work that we've done around integrating with Outlook and Exchange. So first thing we want to do is begin with the notion of anybody can create a reservation at any point in time. So the Workplace Portal app allows us to create reservations. As a user, I want to create a new meeting. I want to schedule the date, excuse me, for the 27th of October. And I want to set the time to meet at 9:30 in the morning with one of the employees. I'm going to hold on. So here we put the start and end time into the presentation. We determined the meeting is really set for a number of 2 people, me, myself, and one other person. First thing we want to do is make sure that we got the right meeting space to work with. And so we can identify the space, look at the appropriate information for that space, and then if need be, actually go in and make sure we locate it and understand what it is before we select it. If we're happy with the space, we simply hit select, and then we fill in the details to confirm. What's nice here is that we've added the ability to invite other employees to the meeting from here without having to go back to ARCHIBUS reservations. So in addition to myself, I want to invite, excuse me, Damien Cornwall. So we're going to go ahead and do that activity. Thank you. And so now I've created a reservation that is now synced up with ARCHIBUS reservations application as well as Outlook and Exchange. And so the next step here is to go over into Outlook for Carlos Montoya or Damien, I believe. So if you hold on, we're going to go ahead and switch views here. So let's hit this, do that. So now let's take a look at what's happened here. ARCHIBUS is fully synchronized, and so Damien receives the invitation from ARCHIBUS and Outlook and fills in the information, takes a look at their Outlook calendar, sees the invitation has been generated. And as we look at the invitation from Carlos, which is me, here we can see that it's set for 9:30 to 10:30, but Outlook tells us that there's a conflicting appointment. So we want to take a quick look at that, and we identify that Damien is scheduled for another meeting, so Damien has to reject the meeting. And he's going to send a notice back basically saying, hey, I can't be there. So this is going to make some changes in the schedule. And so he writes back to Chris Montoya, or me, and basically says, hey, I have a meeting at 10. I can't make the 9:30 start time. And so through Outlook, we're going to send a cancellation notice, not being able to attend the meeting. This is affecting also ARCHIBUS to know that the meeting is not going to take place. So what's going to happen next is Chris Montoya is going to jump in and has to go into his Outlook account and basically see what's going on here. So first thing we'll do is look at our inbox. In the inbox, we can see the rejected meeting from Damien and notifying us that he's in a meeting until 12. And so what can Chris Montoya do, me? What I'm going to do, of course, is jump into the meeting that I had scheduled for 9:30 on the 27th. We're going to jump into that meeting and we're going to make an adjustment. And looking at the Outlook plugin, we can see what rooms are available. We're going to change the start time of the meeting to 8:30. We can look at what rooms are available. We see the room that we're searching for is room 109. And we're going to now make that part of our reservation. And what we're going to do is update the meeting, which will also update ARCHIBUS. And by doing this, we are also notifying Damien that the meeting's been changed. So it would receive a new notification or a new invitation to the meeting. And looking at the calendar, we can see that we previously declined the meeting, but we see with the start time that Damien now is able to accept the meeting. And so that takes place. And we'll just go ahead and respond without any further comment. And now we have the meeting at 8:30 with no interruption of the internal sales meeting that was scheduled for 10 a.m. And then if we return back as Chris, we would, of course, get a notification that Chris has accepted the meeting and we proceeded. And so while we're doing all of this in Outlook between the two participants, ARCHIBUS Reservations is fully aware of all the changes that have been made along the way. All right, so I'm going to end that session. And next thing we're going to do is what happens if the people involved in the meeting will be in different locations. So we have to book multiple rooms at the same time. And so we'll go ahead and do that. Here we're going to have to do this in ARCHIBUS. And so the whole purpose here is to create a new conference call reservation, enabling multiple rooms to be reserved at the same time, regardless of what location and time zone they are in. So we'll start with the time zone of the Eastern Standard or Eastern Daylight Time. The primary location for the invitation is the HQ building, but we also want to engage with the Barcelona office as well as the Boston building. So we have two locations in the Eastern time zone and one in the Greenwich Mean Time +2 or 1. I can't ever remember which. So what's great is we search for the room with the amount of capacity. We get back a list of rooms that would be available, including the Barcelona room 110, as well as rooms from the Boston building. All of the times will be based on New York time, but the times will be properly recorded for the locations at hand. So first thing to do is select which room we're going to pick in the HQ building and what time do we want to start the meeting. But we also want to check the schedule of the people that will be invited. So we go ahead and look for who we're planning to invite to the meeting. And we can see that Damien is going to be one of those people, as well as Chris, myself. And here we have their schedule talking back to the Exchange server. And so we can see between 12 and 2, we have a window of opportunity to schedule a meeting. Next thing we want to do is pick that time that makes the most sense to schedule the different rooms. And so what we're going to do is starting at 12:30, we're going to schedule a meeting in the HQ 18109 room. And for the Barcelona office, the one room that's available, as well as the one of the rooms from the Boston building. In this way, as we set up a multi-location conference call, it's very easy to do, comparing schedules of the rooms as well as schedules of the people that we're inviting to the meeting. Next step that we'll do, of course, is confirm this reservation and fill in the remaining details. So what is the purpose of the meeting in terms of scheduling this activity? So we have reviewing a particular account in question, add any additional comments of inviting the people to the meeting, and submitting this and making the final reservation, properly notifying everybody. Here, let's take a look at what we see in ARCHIBUS. So ARCHIBUS has created 3 reservations, one for BOSMED, one for Barcelona, and one for HQ. Notice for the Barcelona office that the meeting is at 5:30 p.m. local time, and the two locations in the U.S. are at 12:30 p.m., which was on the calendar. So ARCHIBUS has recognized the different time zones for the locations and created the 3 reservations that are now all linked together. So this gives you an idea of how ARCHIBUS can be used to schedule multi-conference rooms and to fully integrate with Outlook and Exchange to keep everything current with the employees and staff that are on board. So let's proceed here. Just to kind of quickly wrap up for folks, let's talk about what this all means to you. Well, as you can see, we have this common data platform that all the different users can leverage within the system, whether they're managing work orders, asset inventory, scheduling conference rooms, doing moves, assigning employees to space, etc. It's all coming from one thing. With the integration of the AutoCAD and Revit models, it is very easy to visualize where people are, how space is allocated, what assets are situated in what room, where work is being performed. We saw that with Revit we have the connectivity to the BIM model so that we can extract all of the information just like we've been doing in AutoCAD, linking our inventory to the information. We have the integrated mobile solution. So the mobile framework works seamlessly between Web Central and synchronizes with the user identities, as well as on what's happening in the background is the ARCHIBUS connectors that talks to the building automation system. You saw a brief example of that. But it also talks to our HR and finance system. It is our API into all the enterprise solutions that you have within the organization. And with that, Ayanna, I am turning it back over to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Greg. Listen, thanks. You're a real trooper with the, I'll let you give you a bit of a break.
Apologize for the noise, but what could I do, right?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. We do have time for questions. In the lower right-hand side of the console, you can type your questions to me. I do, certainly I've just made a few notes about the presentation and some of the key benefits. Basically, the 21.3 does give you more agility and efficient execution of tasks through mobile. We saw more control and insight with the new easy filters in the new console in Lease. The project managers are going to definitely like it with key alerts and the ability to review milestones like the Gantt chart and basically track the progress of activities. So that's all great in the project management console. Energy management, definitely the environment, it's more green, being able to track utilities or at least start to get some visibility into being able to make changes that will affect the bottom line and save money for organizations, and energy conservation is great. The reservations, the Outlook and Exchange that you were able to demonstrate, Greg, more flexibility and the schedule checking, as well as being able to organize shared meeting space across time zones. So all fantastic advancements, and definitely thanks for sort of showing us and demonstrating them. I do have a couple questions that have come in. Let me just get to them. One of our clients is asking if they can use the new supervisor features if they have mobile framework and version 21.2.
The answer is no, Ayanna. They definitely have to have 21.3 as it's part of the new 21.3 release. And what we had also done is created a mobile client 2.0, so they would have to download the new mobile client that works with 21.3.
Okay. Okay, so that wouldn't be too hard to do, though. Okay, I have someone that's asking about the space and occupancy app in the mobile framework.
Yes.
If they enable workplace transactions.
Yeah. So if you have the workplace transactions, the space and occupancy app was designed to work with that, so that you capture the multiple employees assigned a room, do the room splits, the percentage splits. But it's also now designed to work if you don't have workspace transactions enabled, and you're able to directly edit the employee occupancy details and allocation and classification details. So it's been updated to interact with the regular workspace transactions or the non-enabled workspace transactions.
Okay, great. And we did have one last question. We still have time, yeah. Do I have access to the new lease console if they already own the lease administration application?
So if you upgrade to 21.3, then yes, you would have access to the lease console. Great.
Okay. Well, without further ado, we definitely want to once again thank everybody for joining us. Just waiting a minute or two. Got a couple people that have thanked you for the presentation, and let me just see. Oh, there is. Hold on. Does the mobility solution integrate with AutoCAD in the same as Revit?
Yes, you are able to publish your AutoCAD floor plans, and you'll be able to see them in the mobile framework.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, everyone, thanks again for joining us. I hope you found it informative. Thanks again, Greg, for your presentation. And Wayne, thanks for being here. Everyone, remember to watch for Hot Topic and productivity webinars that we're going to continue to roll out for you. And if you have questions, feel free to just reach out to us directly or go through the website. The webcast is now ending, so enjoy your day. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everyone. Bye.